Hello everyone and welcome to the epic second winter 2025-20 update from GavsWeatherVids. So yes, here we go again, got more winter data for you, and this one promises to be a real epic. We're going to be looking at all the usual stuff. There's going to be quite a bit of forecast data, but the stratosphere as well. It's coming at winter for the first time this season. So sit back, relax, enjoy, and I shall get on with your second winter 2025-26 update in a moment. But just say that if you enjoy the content of the channel at the moment, please do like, share, and subscribe. And thank you so much everyone for doing that. Thank you so much to Shrine Brun and also Terry Scarley for all of the help on this video. Hashtag Team Gav doing an awesome job for us as always. Thank you so much, guys. Right, well, we're going to begin this update with some analogs. So we're going to begin an MB update with analogs, and in between can be lots of winter updates goodness. So we're going to start off with England Wales precipitation for summer, doing summer to winter analogs this week. So June, England Wales precipitation came in at 55.2 millimeters, driving an average 78% of average. July came in at 64.2 millimeters, that's 89% of average. And then August came in very dry actually at 34.4 millimeters, that is 42% of average. Not quite a top 10 driest summer though. So for our precipitation range for this first set of analogs, we're going to be looking at winters following summers with an England Wales precipitation range of 143 to 163 millimeters, places summer 2025 slap bang in the middle of that range. Thank you so much to Shrine for sorting out the years for us. Okay, so we're going to start off with the winter of 1959-1960. So this one with low pressure coming in from off the Atlantic. That's a mild and wet winter following on from a pretty hot and dry-ish summer in 1959. We've got 1972-1973. That's our next winter, following that England Wales summer precipitation range. This one's a mainly dry and mild winter with higher pressure over to the East Country, and we bring up the wind from that southwesterly direction. We've got 1989-1990. This is a very wet but also exceptionally mild and zonal Atlantic-driven winter, following the hot and pretty dry summer of 1989, of course, with low pressure in the North Atlantic, high pressure across southern parts of Europe. Just 1 year on, 1990-1991, this is our first colder winter with higher pressure centred towards Scandinavia, winds in from the east. I say cold winter, it was actually cold winter, and it culminated in a really tremendous freeze-up in February of 1991. We've got 94-95. This is a mild, wet and windy winter. Low pressure to the north, high pressure to the south. That's a classic mild Atlantic-driven 1990s winter. A few cold snaps here and there. And then we've got 96-97. So lots of years from the 1990s, interestingly. This one with cold weather early on in winter, front-loaded winter. So coldest weather around Christmas, New Year. And then it gets mild and wet windy in the latter part of the winter. 2003-2004 shows up next. That looks like it should be cold winter, but it wasn't particularly. There were a few cold snaps coming and going, but not really remembered as a particularly cold winter. They've got 2006-2007. Very mild winter, that one, particularly so in January. One cold snap in February of 2007. And then we've got 2013-2014, which of course is exceptionally wet and stormy winter with deep low pressure over and to the west of the UK and Ireland. Very, very Atlantic driven with that one. Okay, so let's put it all back together. And this is how all December's combined are looking, following a summer England Wales precipitation range of 143 to 163 millimeters. A mild, wet and windy signal really for those December's deep low pressure in the Atlantic. High pressures tend to be focused towards Poland and Ukraine. So winds in from a southwesterly direction, that's a mild direction, but also with low pressure Atlantic, wet, windy. All January's combined, also looking unsettled, bringing low pressure in from off the Atlantic, very Atlantic driven signal for the January's. All February's combined, keeps the deluge going. This looks like a very wet signal for these winters, but also very mild as well, with winds in from the west and from the southwest, and all winters combined, following that summer England where precipitation range of 143 to 163 millimetres. It's a mild, wet and windy signal for those winters, with deep low pressure again heading in from off the Atlantic. So look away and get behind the stage long. There you are, the cold winter. But remember, it's always exceptions to the rule. 2000, what I'm talking about, 1990, 1991. Is in the mix. That's a properly cold winter, and also, of course, we've got 96, 97 in the mix as well, and that's cold for the earlier part of winter. So there will always be exceptions to the rule, but generally a pretty poor set of battle, I'll say the least, for those of you wanting colder winter. Anyway, thank you so much, Ryan, for sorting out those years. We're going to have more analysis at the end of this update, but now we're going to go through the rest of the update, starting off with oceans data. So, this is how things looking in the oceans last week. Our 4 interest areas, of course, got the ENSO region in the equatorial Pacific Ocean. Oops, that went a bit wrong, didn't it? ENSO region just here in the equatorial Pacific Ocean. We've got the Northern Pacific, particular focus on the northeast. We've got the Indian Ocean from here, and then we've got the Atlantic Ocean through there. That's how the oceans were set up for our first winter update. I said from there we'll be doing comparisons week by week, so this is the latest. So for the ENSO region, not a lot of change really. We still have that slight La Nina signature, a colder than average signature through the equatorial Pacific Ocean from Peru to Indonesia. How's that developed over the past week? Well, I reckon in the central regions it might have strengthened a little bit. In the eastern region, perhaps weakened ever so slightly. But, you know, it's a week-on-week change, so I don't think we can take that too seriously. Basically, we've got a weak La Nina signature there for the equatorial Pacific Ocean. Going north into the northern Pacific Ocean. Again, that's how things looked last week. So we're looking up here now. This is the latest. So still significantly warmer than average, as you would expect, through the northern and the northeastern Pacific, but probably cooled down a little bit in some areas over the past week. That might be in response to the La Nina. So, everyone, it might just be a week-by-week change. We have to wait several weeks before we can confirm, cooling taking place. In the Indian Ocean, so we're over here now. We're over there now. That's how things were looking last week. This is the latest. So that colder than average area through here has possibly weakened a little bit and generally warmer over towards Indonesia. So that's a negative IOD signature. We're going to have a look at that in a moment. In the North Atlantic, again, let's go back to last week. So this is how things are looking in the North Atlantic, and this is the latest. So back to colder area has perhaps expanded a little bit through the central northern Atlantic. Through here we're perhaps seeing that colder area expanding. However, generally most areas are still warmer than average in the tropical Atlantic, warmer than average around the Caribbean, warmer than average to the southeast of Greenland, and particularly so into the Norwegian Sea as well. That is not a tripole. I don't think it even looks that close to a tripole. Some people think that looks like, it's close to a tripole. I don't really see it, to be honest. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm missing something. But to me, that doesn't look particularly like a tripole. Anyway, this is a 7-day change. Next week, we're going to go through sea surface temperature anomalies, and we're going to see if we can pick out closest matches to the current state of the Atlantic. But this is a 7-day change. So the ENSO region, well, of course, we've got Rossby waves warming and cooling, as you'd expect. there has been quite a significant cool down in the northeastern Pacific there over the past 7 days, so we confirm that. We confirm that this area of the Indian Ocean has warmed a bit in the last 7 days, and in the Atlantic, well, varying from area to area, really. So the south of the UK and Ireland, it has cooled quite a bit. And over here a little bit as well. Cooled in central tropical Atlantic, but also warmed in some areas as well. So generally cancelling, one another out with the areas, I guess, that are warming and cooling. Southern Oscillation Index, remember, is measuring air pressures between Tahiti and Darwin, coming up with an overall SY number. When we've got a positive SY, the outside setup will be reflective of La Nina. When we've got a negative SY, the outside setup will be reflective of El Nino. So over the past week, well, we haven't seen anything overly dramatic going on, really. The SOI, so these are our two comps here, Tahiti and Darwin for air pressure, barometric pressure, and then the overall SOI contribution just here. And we see numbers that are very close to neutral, really. A little bit on the negative side there, a little bit on the positive side there. And again, a little bit on the negative side for the last couple of days. Nothing particularly dramatic going on from a SOI point of view. The 30-day average, though, is in positive territory. That's this red line just here. Not strongly positive, but is in weekly positive territory. So overall, the outside setup in the Southern Ocean is probably a little bit reflective of La Nina, which from a CFS, it evolved a bit over the past week, quite a significant change. So, this is the forecast for the central part of the extra precipitation over the next year. Most temperature anomalies on the side, dates in monthly periods along the bottom. We're currently around here, so we're just shy of La Nina, actually. To get a La Nina, we've got to go down to a half degree or more below average and run that over 5 tri-monthly periods. You can see from a black dash line here, but we never really get to that. So, similar to last winter, really, say on the cold side of ENSO neutral, never getting to a designated La Nina up to the new year anyway, and then beyond that we gradually start to inch back towards the positive side of ENSO neutral. Certainly nothing particularly dramatic to be seen there from the CFS. As I said, I think we've changed that because last week it was going for like a week La Nina for this winter, so there's definitely been a bit of alteration that's gone on there from NOAA, but we shall see. Right, the IOD, so this is quite interesting. Indian Ocean dipole is indeed in negative territory. This is coming from a Bureau Meteorology in Australia. So to be in a negative IOD, we've got to be here 0.4 degrees below average. We're actually around here, so around 1 degree below average at the moment. And so that's quite a strong negative IOD that we're seeing. And that carries on actually through the remainder of the autumn. By the winter, we return to neutral conditions, and then by the time we get through into January and February, we go into more positive conditions. So this is how the probabilities are shaping up. So we have a 97% probability of a negative below normal Indian Ocean dipole during October. We're definitely going to have a negative IOD in October. And that carries on into November, actually 82% probability of a negative IOD for November. Going down to just 39.4% though by December, and a 60% probability that we're around IOD neutral by that point. By January, 93% probability that we're around IOD neutral, and that continues into February as well. You'll note for a positive IOD though, it's 0.000%, and only 1% in January. February is just 11%. So it looks as though we're, definitely in and going to have, and will continue to have, a negative IOD for the next 2 or 3 months, and then probably return towards IOD neutral conditions as we go through the winter itself. Not sure what that could mean for for our winter prospects. Maybe we could do some analysis of negative IOD winters or something later on in the updates. But, you know, it looks like from a positive IOD perspective anyway, which I think is more associated with milder zonal wet windy winters, could be wrong, I think so. It looks like from a positive IOD scenario, we're not going to have to contend with that for this particular winter. Juxtaposed to the oceans, particularly the Atlantic, of course, but also to some degree the ENSO region, we have got the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season. So this is the Atlantic hurricane season page from Wikipedia, and these are latest scores on the doors, Miss Ford. So we have had 7 tropical depressions, 7 tropical storms, 1 hurricane, and 1 major Category 3 or above hurricane. So this is from Cheyenne. Our ACE master has updated our ACE page. Remember, accumulated cyclone energy is telling us how much each individual storm is emitting, and then coming up with an overall IOD number, or what I'm talking about, ACE number, accumulated cyclone energy number for the season. So, up to the 20th of September, we're seeing an ACE of 41.50. That is after 7 tropical storms, 1 hurricane, and 1 major. This is a below normal season so far, so we'd expect at this point in the season to be having an ACE around 79.40, around 80, after 10 tropical storms, 5 hurricanes, and 2 majors. So at the moment, this is below normal season, but of course, we've still got some time to go, and we shall wait and see how things pan out over the next few months and whatnot. Well, next few weeks and next couple of months. Then we've got to do our winter forecast in early December. And actually, next week I'll have the dates for the GavsWeatherVids Winter 2025-26 forecast for you. If you're enjoying this second Winter 25-26 update, then please do like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks so much, everyone, for dear Matt. And don't forget, our calendar is on sale now. So this is the GavsWeatherVids 2026 calendar. You can purchase this, you can buy this from GavsWeatherVids for £13. That's £10 a calendar. £3 postage and packaging. It's an awesome way to help support the channel. You know, all of this is extra revenue for our channel and helps to support what we're doing here at GavsWeatherVids. You come to our PayPal page, the link is in the description with this video. Sign into your PayPal account and say you can send £13 and we will get the calendar out to you. So you're supporting GavsWeatherVids by Dear Matt. You're getting an excellent project. It really is high quality and has some amazing photos as well. So thank you so much, everyone, for Dear Matt. But a free way of supporting the channel is just to subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. Make sure you ding the bell. If you do, then you'll be notified when we're releasing content. And by the way, we'll have a live stream tomorrow at 7 p.m. Yes, GavsWeatherVids live streams are back, and we'll be live at 7 p.m. discussing this winter update, go through trials out, and of course, we'll have to include some long range in that as well. Okay, solar activity next. So it's our solar this is looking on our side of this today from Sahan.net to various sunspot regions. Solar activity has actually gone up to moderate levels. However, SolarHam is reporting that we're going to be expecting generally low levels of solar activity for the next 3 days. This is the GavsWeatherVids second winter update solar activity tracker sent through by Shrine. Thanks for Shrine sending this through. The orange line and orange spots depicting each individual day's worth of sunspot activity. So, of course, we had our peak, we think, of Solar Cycle 25 back at the end of the summer last year when the orange spots went up to that level. We're currently around here, so we're still at a relatively high-ish level of solar activity. We're not that far from what we think was solar maximum. And a little bit up and down as well, as you expect. Of course, we will be moving into solar minimum over the next 2 or 3 years. It won't be a linear process. So we actually saw quite a significant drop in solar activity around the latter part of spring into early summer, and the green line, which are the green and blue line, I should say, which are the 30-day and 60-day averages, have actually lifted up very slightly from where we was, back at in the latter part of the spring and whatnot. So a bit up and down, as you'd expect, but generally not as high with solar activity as we was this time last year, telling us that we're probably starting to come down from the solar maximum, but that, of course, remains to be seen. Right, we'll have a section on the temperature 10 HPA over the Arctic and the North Pole. So this is the latest GFS run as I'm recording this video. It's actually the pub run from the GFS, but I wouldn't expect it to do anything outrageous. So this light blue area just here is actually polar vortex just beginning to form and get going at its roots in the stratosphere there. Well, as we run through the next few days, we're going to find those blue colours intensifying, telling us that temperatures will be getting colder, as you expect, in this cooling time of the year at 10 HPA over the Arctic and the North Pole. And so as we run through into more extent, we'll again see how the blue colours deepen and expand. So that gets us to the 6th of October. This is all very typical. You know, it's exactly what I expect to be happening at 10 HPA in the stratosphere over the Arctic and the North Pole at this time of year, going down to about minus 60 to minus 64 there. And getting ever colder through this cooling time of the year. But let's have a look at some forecast data for temperatures at 10 HPA. Well, actually, this is the zonal zonal mean at 60 degrees north. 10 HPA. So this is like the strength, the predicted strength of the polar vortex, if you like, rather than temperature, I guess. So anyway, the black line here is climatology. The blue line is the ensemble mean from the ECMWF ensemble mean plume. And interestingly, dates along the bottom of the chart, of course, yes, interestingly, the ECMWF is forecasting a weaker than normal zone wind there as we're going through the winter. Could that be an indication that the polar vortex is going to be weaker than it would normally be expected? Climatology could even be a hint of a sudden stratospheric warming event. Well, very early days on that. I'm not sure how reliable these forecasts are, but they're of interest anyway, coming from a Copernicus sweet spot. So this is Meteo France. Again, we've got the black line here, which is climatology. The blue line is the Meteo France ensemble plume mean ensemble plume, and that is a little bit below average there as well. This is even more interesting. This is the DWD. This is the German model. So again, you see the black line is climatology, the blue line is the forecast ensemble mean, and that could be indicating a chance of a sudden stratospheric warming event, or certainly a significant warming event, and a much weaker than normally expected zone of wind there for the earlier part of winter. Notice later in the winter, we get to about February, when we're reverting close to average, but certainly through the earlier part of winter, November, and particularly December, I think, weaker than normal. So that could, extrapolating and, lots and lots of caveats and whatnot, that might be an indication of an early warming of the stratosphere, possibly some early blocking, as a result of that, although that's very speculative. You don't always, if you get an SSW, you don't always get blocking as a result. But it's certainly quite interesting there from the DWD. This is the Bureau of Meteorology, part of Copernicus, but the Australian model, again, going for a weaker than normal mean zonal wind forecast there from the ensemble plume, blue line and the black line. And then we've got the JMA, same idea, not quite as dramatic as the DWD, but still we see that forecast ensemble mean, the blue line, underneath the daily climatology, which is the black line. And finally, we've got the UK Met Office, our own Met Office, of course, with, again, just a hint and indication that the ensemble plume is forecasting zone winds to be weaker than the long-term 30-year average. So quite interesting, quite an interesting scenario there, and we'll keep posted on that. I'm not sure how reliable those charts are. I don't think they've performed particularly well over recent years, but it's of interest, and we'll have a look at those again when we get the next update from Copernicus, which of course will be next month. Arctic oscillation observed and forecast is looking like this. So black line shows where we've been with the Arctic oscillation. Red lines at the end where GFS ensembles are forecast. It's good piece, isn't it? It's alright. Quite a good update. No, black line shows where we've been with the Arctic oscillation. Red lines at the end where GFS ensembles forecasting Arctic oscillation to go. The AO has been trending between weak negative, weak positive, really. At the moment, we're around neutral, but we're going to go more strongly positive, I think, as we go through the second half of September. And then into early October, remaining weak positive. That could be an indication for the polar vortex beginning to get its act together over the Arctic and over North Part. At the same time, the NEO has been in more of a negative phase, actually, since around the middle part of August. We're still negative with the NEO, but GFS ensembles are forecasting NEO going to revert back to weakly positive or around neutral. So both the indexes on the rise, lifting up, might be an indication for a stronger zone of westerly flow, which of course could bring wet, windy weather, but could also bring a lot of dry and very mild or even quite warm weather. Remains to be seen, and we shall keep you posted in our 10 to 14 days, of course. QPO, so again, just confirming from NASA that we are in the easterly phase of quasi-biennial oscillation. It's descended from the stratosphere to the troposphere, and this winter will be an easterly QPO winter, definitely. And soon we will have a look at what that could mean, through reanalysis, something we always do. Right, Eurasia SOCA next. This Southing's looking last week, when we did last week's first update. So a few white patches there through the far northeastern portion of Siberia. Not much to be seen. This is the latest, quite a significant expansion of snow cover. Probably no more than you'd expect at this point of the year, but quite a significant expansion of snow cover there in the far northern portion of the Siberia and Russia. Eventually, we're going to see this whole area filling up with snow, and when we get into October, we'll be doing comparisons back through past years, something that we always do in our winter updates. Not yet, because it's still too early to do that, but in about 2 or 3 weeks' time, we'll start doing those year by year comparisons. This last time we'll look at this just to confirm that we have reached and passed our minimum Arctic sea ice extent, coming from NASA. So the red line here is 2025. You can see how they just, maybe you can't make out, maybe you can, just starting to tick up there. So yes, we have reached our minimum for Arctic sea ice extent, and the minimum was above 2012 again, so 2012 safe as the record minimum year. We're actually a little bit above the 2009 to 2018 average now, only ever slightly though. That's that purple line just there. And as far as Arctic sea ice area is concerned, again, same idea. We didn't get anywhere near 2012. That remained safe for another year as the record minimum year. And we're very close to the 2008-2009 average as the refreeze begins to recommence. That's probably the last time we shall look at Arctic sea ice extent, but there will be lots and lots and lots more to come on Eurasian snow cover. Right, okay, well, let's just finish off with some more analogues, and then we'll get this second winter 25-26 update wrapped up for you. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. I've just got one last set of analogues to show you. Now, this time we're going to be looking at the CET. So, June came out with a CET of 17.0, nearly 3 degrees above average. July, 18.4, 2.4 degrees above average. And August, 17.7, 1.9 degrees above average. That does, in fact, make the summer of 2025 a top 10 warmest summer for central temperature, and you know we'll have a countdown at GavsWeatherVids. So, no, I won't go through that, but not half. Let's crack on though, and we're going to start at number 10. Now, the 10th warmest summer for CT is 1959, the winter of 1959-1960. We saw it in the first set of analogues. It's a mild and wet winter, bringing low pressure in from off the Atlantic. At number 9, we've got 1975. That's our 9th warmest summer for CT. Winter 75-76 was very mild and also dry. Bring the wind in from off the Atlantic. Of course, that's in the middle of the drought years of the middle 1970s. At number 8, we've got 1983. Yes, 1983 is the 8th warmest summer, the winter of 83-84, with lots of low pressure in the North Atlantic. Cold zonality, though, so despite being Atlantic-driven, was actually quite a chilly winter, particularly so for more northern regions, with plenty of snow across Scotland. At number 7, we've got 2003. What a hot August that was. And overall, the summer of 2003 was the 7th warmest summer for the central temperature. The winter of 03-04, again, we saw it in the earlier set of analogues. It looks like it should be cold winter. Wasn't particularly, but there were a few cold snaps coming and going. And at number 6, we've got a recent winter, 2022, when of course we reached 40 degrees and had our first 18 Celsius CT August for about 20 years, 19 years actually. So the winter though of 2022-23, rather bizarre. Reanalysis chart analog. So blocking around Greenland, but sort of ridging just all the way through most of Europe. And again, no trough into southern Europe, which is the thing that stops us from getting a particularly cold winter there. At number 5, we've got 2006. That one's back as well. The winter of 2006-2007 was a very mild winter. Bring the wind in from the Atlantic, particularly mild in January. And then at number 4, we've got 1995, so the winter of 1995-1996, ignore what's in there, that is wrong. This is the winter of 1995-1996, which is the 4th hottest, warmest winter for the central temperature. That has blocking to the north and low pressure to the south. So this is a cold winter. Interesting, at number 4, we do get a cold winter, genuinely cold winter. Lots of easterly winds coming and going through the winter of 1995-1996. One of those winters with regular Scandinavian highs, regular easterly winds and easterly outbreaks, and plenty of snow. Really cold around Christmas to New Year of 1995 as well, the tremendous freeze up. At number 3, we've got 2018, the winter of 2018-19, anticyclonic and generally mild. Did have a bit of a cold snap in January, but not a lot there from a cold perspective. Perhaps more in the southeastern portion of Europe with that one. And then at number 2, we've got 1976, so the daddy of hot and dry summers. 1976 is now the 2nd hottest summer for central temperature. The winter of 76-77 looks like that, so it's a very unsettled winter. Cold through the early part of winter. It's a front-loaded winter, cold December and cold into January as well. Some snow around through the early part of winter. February 1977 is mild. Notice that big trough into eastern portions of America. That's one of the most severest and snowiest winters on record for Eastern America. A place like New York having tremendously cold and so sorry everyone, that's telling me I've got to get this wrapped up. No, eastern and northeastern parts of America, New York example, having a tremendously cold and snowy winter in 1976-77, particularly later on as we get milder, they get colder. And I guess you guess what is the what's at number 1. So, yes, 2025 is now the warmest summer for the central England temperature. We've got questions to answer for 2025-2026. What will it yield? Keep up with our winter updates and all will be revealed. Okay, let's put all that together then. So this is how all December's combined are looking, following the top 10 warmest summers for central temperature. So we do see a bit of a blocking signal up towards Greenland and Iceland. Low pressure ourselves. Not sure that's quite aligned to deliver a cold winter, cold December, but it's not far off. And certainly for Northern Europe, that trough looks quite encouraging for some early cold in Northern Europe. Now, it's also a bit better. All January's combined for a colder perspective, but trough generally moving more towards Germany and Poland, blocking again around Greenland, and winds more aligned to the north and to the northeast there. So that could definitely be quite a cold and wintry signal for those Januaries. All Februaries combined. Quite interesting again. We do see a continuation of a blocking signal around Greenland and Iceland. So could bring the wind in from an easterly direction. However, I think overall it's probably more aligned towards like southeasterlies and probably anticyclonic, probably frost and whatnot, but not especially cold. Won't take that much of an adjustment though to deliver like genuinely cold easterly winds and whatnot. And all winters combined, following the top 10 warmest summers for CT, again looks pretty encouraging if you want some colder weather. So complete contrast to the first set of analogs. Blocking sent towards Greenland, low pressure sent to the south. Our winds tend to be more from the east. We might be skewing that a little bit with 1995, 1996, but remains to be seen, and definitely of interest and of note that could be a colder signal following those top 10 warmest summers, but as ever, time will tell. Thank you so much to Shrine for sorting out all of those years for us. As always, thank you so much to Shrine and to Terry all of help on this second winter 2025-20 update. If you enjoy it, please like, share, subscribe, and thank you so much everyone for doing that. Consider buying a calendar from GavsWeatherVids to help support the channel, and that's absolutely awesome. Thank you so much everyone for doing that. So we're going to be live tomorrow, Monday, 36 minutes. Not too bad. There's a lot to get through there. I told you last week they get longer, didn't I? It's going to get longer still, probably. No, we're going to be live tomorrow, Monday at 7 p.m, discussing this epic second winter update and the first winter update as well, of course. So I shall see you there, and we'll go through trials there, have a look at some long range, and it should be interesting. It's been a while since I did live stream on my channel, a public live stream anyway, not a channel member stream. Been a while since I did that. If you're around tomorrow at 7 p.m, check in, and that will be a lot of fun. I'm going to be back next week with your third winter 2025-26 update. I don't know exactly what that will entail, but I think we'll go through sea surface temperature data and see if we can pick out closest matches to the current Atlantic sea surface temperature anomaly. So that's to come next week, same time, same place for the third installment, and as I say, we'll have the date for the winter forecast for you next week as well. Okay, well, you enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and for the second winter 2025-26 update from GavsWeatherVids, that's all for now, and thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again more soon, and bye for now.